In this video, the Historic Ordnance series, we're going to look at the Swedish M52 low metallic anti-tank mine. Now, this mine entered service, it looks like, in 1952 and is still one of the primary anti-tank mines used by the Swedish military. Reportedly, in 2022, Sweden sent a massive amount of these mines to Ukraine. So it is a guarantee a bunch of these have ended up on the international arms black market, and they are going to start appearing around the world. But so far, the only countries I can find listed that have these mines is Sweden and Ukraine. Now, there are two mines in this series, the M52 and the M52B. The difference between the two is the M52B does not have filler ports on the bottom of the mine, unlike the M52. My guess is they simplified the production, and instead of drilling holes in the bottom of the body to fill the explosive that way, they just left out the fuse well piece here during construction, filled the molten explosive in that way, and then put that fuse well piece in there and screwed it down while the explosive was starting to set, starting to harden. Now, these mines are made out of molded plywood and covered in fabric. This fabric, once the epoxy that molds it onto the wood is dry, it's then painted in OD green paint. There is a cloth carrying handle which is added to the mine before it's covered with the fabric. That's been a note that I've come across in multiple locations. There are no secondary fuse wells on this mine for anti-handling devices. Now, some of the technicals on this: diameter is 13.5 inches, height is 3 inches, and that's of the mine itself without the activation piece, if you want to think of that, on the top of the mine. Now, there's three different, I don't know if we call them fuse assemblies, because this is what is referred to as the fuse in this mine, but there's three different activation assemblies for this. There is the M49, which is a 3-prong pressure piece, which is what you see here and here. There is also a tilt rod assembly, which it looks like isn't too much different in construction than this, but instead of having the 3 prongs on top, it has the tilt rod is attached. And there's also a spider that was issued back in the day for putting over the top of this mine. If you do not know what a spider is, a spider was an external pressure plate, but it wasn't a full plate. It was just this grid of metal that sat on top of the mine to increase the surface area for the pressure plate. And the theory is when something drives over the top of the spider, that metal grid presses down through the soft soil to the top of the mine. It wasn't a really good concept, and there's a reason why there's very few mines that still employ those. So I don't even know if the spider is even still in the inventory in Sweden for this particular mine. Now, reportedly, the M49 3-prong pressure piece does require a minimum of 550 pounds of pressure on these prongs, either straight on it or on one of them, enough to cause it to turn to activate the top of the fuse here. The M47 fuse is the only fuse that is used inside this mine. Now, these mines are crated two different ways depending on which factory they came from and the year of production, apparently. The first method is there are two mines inside a wooden crate, and then in each of the 4 corners you're going to have one of the two M49 3-prong pressure pieces or one of the M47 fuses. Now, the second method for creating these, they put 10 mines in a long crate that reportedly weighs around 200 to 300 pounds. There's 10 mines in there set on their side like discs going down it. And at one end, there's a ammo can. And inside that ammo can, there's 10 M49s and 10 M47 fuses inside that can. Now, this is the packaging that the fuses come in. They have a small cardboard insert on the bottom here. The fuse goes in here. Then another cardboard insert goes over the top of this, and then they have a metal cap which goes over the top of this, which is taped on to protect the fuse. The 3-prong pressure piece comes inside a cardboard cylinder with a plastic cap over the top to try to protect the contents just a little bit. These mines can only be hand in place. They cannot be laid by mechanical means because of the construction of the mine. Now, installation on these is pretty simple, but you do have to be cautious as you're doing it. So first off, you're going to inspect the mine, you're going to inspect the M47 fuse, and you're going to inspect the M49 pressure piece. Make sure everything is serviceable. On the M47 fuse, you have to look right on the top here. There's a copper shear pin that goes all the way across over the top of the body here. Make sure that pin is in place. If the pin is not there, you're not supposed to use that fuse. It has to be destroyed. It's considered unsafe to put in a mine. The chances of the mine going off in your face is too high. You also want to check inside the fuse well on the mine. Make sure there's no debris in there that will prevent the fuse from locking down into place down in the bottom. There's a small hole in the bottom of the fuse well that this little part here on the bottom of the fuse locks down into to keep the mine positioned correctly for the pressure piece to operate. Everything passes inspection. Pack it up, transport it to where it's going to be emplaced. Now, these can be surface laid, hidden in vegetation like you see in the picture here, or they can be buried like in this picture here, where all you can see is the 3-prong pressure piece is above the ground, hidden in vegetation. You're going to prep that area. Now, the way that the Swedish told the Ukrainians to do it, when they would cut the hole in the ground, they have to cut an X shape and then peel back each of the 4 little quadrants that they cut out, and then dig down into the soil to the depth of about here, right below the bottom of the pressure prong. That pressure prong needs to be over the top of the soil. Make sure it has a nice firm base. It's the correct size for the mine. Put the mine down inside the hole. At that point, you're going to stabilize the mine just to keep it from moving back and forth inside the hole. Then you're going to remove the fuse well plug here in the center. Then you're going to take the canister that has your M47 fuse, open it up, pull the fuse out, slide it down into the fuse well here, this little nub going down in there. This is the top part here. Make sure it's seated down in there all the way. Don't force it if it doesn't go in easily. If it doesn't go in easily, double check to make sure everything's clean inside the mine and there's nothing stuck to the bottom of the fuse. Make sure that the fuse is down in there. Then you're going to take your M49 pressure prong piece here and you're going to screw it into the fuse well over the top. Do not tighten it down all the way. You're supposed to leave about a 1/16 to an 18 or a 1/16 to a 1/8 inch gap between the bottom of this assembly here and the top of the mine. The reason for that is a safety thing so that you're not putting too much pressure on top of the fuse where you may accidentally activate it. Now, once the pressure assembly is on the top of the mine is active at that point. So then you're going to go through, camouflage the mine. You're going to have the 3-prong pressure piece sticking out above the ground. Conceal that with vegetation. Now, if this is placed in sandy conditions, you can put, say, a max of about 1 inch of sand over the top of the pressure prongs reportedly. These can also be put in snow. Max depth there, it looks like is around 6 inches over the top of the pressure prongs. There is a safety note from the Swedish military. Do not take the M47 pressure fuse and put it into the M49 3-prong pressure assembly. Don't pre-assemble them before putting them in inside the mine. The chance of accidentally activating the M47 fuse is too high. That's why you put the fuse in the mine first, and then you put the pressure assembly over the top of that afterwards. Now, removal of the mine, pretty straightforward. Reverse of the way it goes in. But first thing you're going to do, you're going to move up to the area where the mine is supposed to be located. You're going to check around it for any protective mines that are located around it or any booby traps. As you come across those, neutralize them. Then locate the mine. It should be pretty simple to do because the M49 is made out of metal, so it should squeal on that metal detector pretty easily. Once you locate the mine, uncover it carefully. You do not want to put pressure on any of these prongs and accidentally set it off. Uncover the mine and then check the sides and underneath for booby traps. If a anti-handling device or a booby trap is located, destroy the mine in place. Do not continue with removal. If no anti-handling devices or booby traps are located, at that point, you will carefully unscrew the M49 pressure assembly from the top of the mine. Carefully lift it up away from the mine, hopefully without hitting the top of the fuse underneath. Then reach down into the mine with 2 fingers. Do not grasp it on the top here, grasp it on the sides, and carefully remove that M47 fuse from inside the mine. Reportedly, take that fuse and secure it again inside the canister to prevent it from potentially being activated. There is a note that if for some reason the shear pin is missing from the fuse, set it to the side and it will have to be destroyed. There is also a note that when you're trying to remove the M49 pressure assembly from the top, if it's not coming off easily, stop what you're doing, destroy the mine in place. But after you get the fuse out of the mine and you have it secured back inside its container, you're then going to return the fuse well plug back into position here, then remove the mine from the hole, clean everything up, turn it into the mine dump for either reuse or destruction. So this mine, been in service for over 70 years, still works, looks strange, but reportedly it does a pretty decent job against wheeled vehicles and light armored tracked vehicles. Doesn't do so great against tanks, but it will definitely cause some major damage on infantry fighting vehicles, APCs, cargo trucks, Humvees, Jeeps, that type of vehicle. So there you go. The Swedish M52 low metallic anti-tank mine. Now, for all my engineer brothers and the Patriot militia movements, always remember, essayons.